13 days, 2 weeks minus 1. That's how long Nancy Guthrie has been gone from her Catalina Foothills residence, and on this 13th day, the FBI made a decision that speaks louder than any press conference statement could. They doubled the reward, not a modest increase, not a symbolic gesture. From $50,000 to $100,000 for information leading to Nancy's location or the arrest of anyone involved in her disappearance. Federal agencies don't casually elevate rewards to 6 figures. That calculation reflects investigators who believe someone with critical knowledge exists, someone who hasn't yet made the call, someone who might be moved by the right number to finally speak. But the reward increase wasn't the only development that transformed Day 13 into a potential turning point. The FBI released the most forensically precise description of the suspect yet established, built not from witness estimates or rough approximations, but from advanced scientific analysis of 44 seconds of recovered surveillance footage. A male suspect standing 5 feet 9 inches to 5 feet 10 inches tall, average build, and critically, wearing a specific traceable piece of equipment that could become the identification breakthrough investigators desperately need. A black 25-liter Ozark Trail Hiker Pack backpack. That backpack designation isn't generic description, it's investigative ammunition. Ozark Trail represents Walmart's private label outdoor brand, products sold exclusively through Walmart's retail infrastructure. Every purchase potentially documented through transaction records, loyalty program data, security footage from checkout lanes. The kind of retail trail that has broken cases appearing to have no identifying leads. Someone bought that backpack. Someone carried it to Nancy Guthrie's front door at 2:17 in the morning on February 1st. And if that purchase happened at a Walmart, if it was linked to a credit card or rewards account, if surveillance cameras captured who was at that register on that date, investigators now have a direct line from the item visible in footage to the individual who acquired it. The forensic precision behind that height measurement deserves understanding. This wasn't eyeball estimation or rough calculation. The FBI's Video Forensic Analysis Unit deployed to Nancy's residence on February 12th, bringing specialized equipment including an osteometric board designed for exact dimensional analysis. They erected a white tent over her front entrance, recreating the precise lighting conditions that existed at 2:17 a.m. on February 1st. By conducting physical reconstruction at the actual location with actual distances and actual camera placement, forensic technicians achieved measurements that remote footage review simply cannot match for accuracy. Former FBI Executive Assistant Director Joshua School, speaking to CNN, called the technology used to establish the suspect's height extremely accurate. That assessment from someone intimately familiar with how this unit operates carries substantial weight. The timing of this forensically derived description being released simultaneously with the reward doubling reveals deliberate investigative strategy. Law enforcement uses increasingly specific details as tools operating on multiple levels. Obviously, precise descriptions help public identification and tip generation, but they also send calculated messages to everyone connected to the suspect. Anyone who knows someone matching this specific height, carrying this specific backpack who was in Tucson during those early morning hours, now understands that investigators possess this information. The pressure that generates among people peripherally involved, people who might be protecting someone, people who suspect but haven't confirmed, that pressure is intentional and potentially case-breaking. Then came the second surveillance video, footage that might prove even more significant than the doorbell camera recovery. NBC News and News Nation both obtained video from a residence approximately 4 to 5 miles from Nancy's home. That footage, timestamped at 1:52 a.m. on February 1st, shows a person in a gray hoodie and jeans carrying 2 backpacks, not wearing one backpack, carrying 2. One worn on the back, one carried in front or in hands. 8 minutes before Nancy's camera detected motion. 25 minutes before her pacemaker went offline. A person moving through Tucson with multiple backpacks in the pre-dawn darkness. Law enforcement sources told TMZ directly that the FBI is specifically focused on the individual in this second video, someone both wearing and carrying backpacks right around the time of the abduction. If this is the same person captured at Nancy's door 19 minutes later, investigators now have established movement pattern for the night. They know this individual was at a specific location 4 miles away at 1:52 a.m. They know approximately where that person was at 2:17 a.m. Everything in between, every street traveled, every turn taken during those 25 minutes might be documented on other cameras along the route. The Pima County Sheriff's Department has expanded their surveillance footage request to anyone within a 2-mile radius of Nancy's residence, seeking recordings from January 1st through February 2nd, an entire month of footage. This isn't searching for one moment. This is building comprehensive documentation of who moved through this neighborhood over weeks. Physical evidence recovered from desert terrain surrounding Nancy's neighborhood adds another crucial element. The Sheriff's Department confirmed that investigators combing the Catalina Foothills had recovered several items, including gloves, now submitted for forensic analysis. Whether these match the gloves worn by the masked figure in surveillance footage remains unconfirmed, but the forensic potential cannot be overstated. Vinyl or rubber gloves designed to prevent fingerprint transfer can still yield DNA evidence from interior surfaces. When someone wears gloves during physically demanding activity, particularly transporting an unwilling 84-year-old woman through darkness, the inside collects biological material: sweat, skin cells, DNA. The very protection intended to prevent identification can become the evidence that establishes it. If those gloves contain usable DNA matching a profile in the FBI's combined DNA index system or any law enforcement database, the investigation could move from forensic analysis to specific identification rapidly. Even if the profile is new, not in existing databases, it creates reference material that can be compared against anyone investigators develop as a suspect through other means. And with familial DNA genealogy databases that have become increasingly powerful investigative tools in recent years, even a profile without direct match can potentially lead to identification through family connections. But the investigation hasn't proceeded without complications. Derek Kayla, 42, from Hawthorne, California, was arrested on February 5th after sending text messages to Nancy's daughter Annie and her husband demanding to know if they'd obtained Bitcoin. He admitted to investigators that he'd been watching television coverage and was trying to see if the family would respond, obtaining contact information from what he described as a cyber website. Federal prosecutors charged him with transmitting interstate ransom demands and using telecommunications devices to anonymously harass. He was subsequently released pending trial with conditions including no victim contact and electronic monitoring. Federal prosecutors issued a statement that extended beyond Kayla himself, warning that they would continue holding accountable any individuals seeking to interfere with federal investigations or profit from the victim family's grief. That warning carries weight because other communications have arrived. A ransom demand came through KVOA television station's online tip portal, demanding $6 million in Bitcoin with specific deadlines, both of which have passed without confirmed payment. The Sheriff's Department confirmed they're investigating this as separate from the Kala fraud. TMZ received multiple messages from someone claiming to know the kidnapper's identity, initially demanding one Bitcoin worth approximately $65,000, then sending follow-up complaints about not being taken seriously. KVOA received another email communication whose contents they declined to disclose, now under FBI authentication review. This landscape of competing communications, some confirmed fraudulent, some under investigation, creates specific investigative challenge. Every message requires authentication before action. In cases where someone claiming knowledge might genuinely possess it, the inability to immediately distinguish real from opportunistic exploitation generates operational difficulty. But the Kala case demonstrated how efficiently investigators can move from anonymous communication to arrest within 24 hours through digital forensics, emergency disclosure requests to technology companies, and open-source investigation through email account connections. Those same tools are being applied to every lead this investigation generates. Savannah Guthrie has maintained public presence throughout these 13 days in ways reflecting both desperate family member and someone clearly receiving guidance about engaging publicly during kidnapping investigations. Her Instagram statements to millions of followers have carried specific purposes. Early appeals broadly requested public information. Following ransom communication reports, she joined siblings Cameron and Annie in video directly addressing people claiming to hold their mother. "We received your message and we understand," she stated. "We beg you to return our mother so we can celebrate with her. This is very valuable to us and we will pay." That statement reflects specific hostage negotiation strategy of maintaining communication with anyone claiming to have Nancy while signaling willingness to resolve the situation. Savannah also addressed the complexity of proof of life in an artificial intelligence era. "We live in a world where voices and images are easily manipulated," she explained. The family needs undeniable proof any communication comes from Nancy herself, not manufactured recording. That public request serves investigative purpose as well, setting standards legitimate captors would understand they need to meet while providing information law enforcement can use to assess communication authenticity. Her most recent post shared home movie footage with caption reading, "Our lovely mom, we will never give up on her." 5 words carrying the weight of everything at stake after 13 days of searching. Cell phone tower data analysis adds yet another investigative layer. Every phone present near Nancy's residence at 2 a.m. on February 1st left digital trace in carrier records. Former homicide investigator Eric Black explained to media that with appropriate legal process, investigators can access those traces. Identifying phones present in that area for the first time creates person of interest lists from what appears to be empty air. The same digital infrastructure enabling the crime also documents it. Perpetrators sophisticated enough to understand doorbell camera vulnerabilities often don't realize that cell phones create unavoidable digital footprints through tower pings. Every device in that vicinity during the abduction window registered with the nearest tower. With historical data, investigators can identify which phones appeared there for first time, which had no legitimate reason being present at that hour. Sheriff Chris Nanos told media on February 12th that investigators have good leads. Not solved case, not imminent arrest. Good leads. That characterization in law enforcement context means investigators have threads they're pulling, multiple threads simultaneously. The backpack identification, the second surveillance video, the gloves submitted for DNA analysis, the cell tower data, the expanded neighborhood footage request covering an entire month, the active processing of 18,000 tips. This isn't investigation that's lost. This is investigation that's working, according to what the volume and specificity of activity indicates. Good leads represent the stage immediately before what investigators call convergence, when multiple independent evidence threads point at the same person. The weather added new urgency on February 13th. Forecasters predicted rain bringing between 1/4 and 1 inch of precipitation to Tucson. For investigators combing desert terrain for physical evidence and search teams working across the Catalina Foothills, rain presents specific challenge. Physical evidence surviving 12 days of dry Arizona desert can be displaced, obscured, or contaminated by precipitation. Scent trails followed by search dogs can be disrupted. But the FBI confirmed to media that search would continue regardless of weather conditions. The investigative pace will not be interrupted by rain. Every hour matters. Every lead matters. Nancy requires daily medication she hasn't accessed since early morning February 1st. The Ozark Trail backpack identification might prove the most consequential single piece of evidence in this investigation. This isn't generic description allowing broad interpretation. This is specific product identification that can be located in retail databases, traced through purchase records, compared against any backpack owned by anyone in the suspect pool. Products under Walmart's private label are sold exclusively through their infrastructure. Transaction documentation frequently connects to identifiable information. Loyalty program accounts, credit or debit card transactions, in-store camera systems capturing who's at checkout lanes at specific times and dates. All create potential documentation of who purchased specific items. If the backpack visible in surveillance footage was purchased at Walmart, there may be transaction record. There may be security footage from that transaction. There may be loyalty data connecting that specific product purchase to specific individual account. This kind of retail tracking has broken cases that appeared to have no identifying evidence. A specific item purchased at traceable location by traceable method creates direct line from the item to the individual who bought it. Beyond purchase tracking, the backpack identification allows investigators and any public member to look at every person matching physical description and ask one additional question. Does this person own a black Ozark Trail backpack? That question can be answered through social media posts, photographs, what someone describes carrying during outdoor activities. The FBI's specific hope articulated alongside the reward increase was that updated description would concentrate tips. Focus. Narrow the lead pool from 18,000 to ones actually matching physical reality of the suspect documented in footage. A 5'9" to 5'10" male with average build, carrying specific black 25-liter Ozark Trail backpack. That description can be matched. That description eliminates vast numbers of people. That description combined with $100,000 reward is designed to move the person who knows something from hesitation to action. Nancy Long Guthrie was born January 27, 1942. She raised 3 children, built life in Arizona, remained sharp and independent well into her 80s. On the evening of January 31st, she said goodnight to her family. 13 days later, she remains missing. The suspect is male, 5'9" to 5'10", average build, carrying a black 25-liter Ozark Trail Hiker Pack backpack. Someone watching this knows something. Maybe it's the backpack. Maybe it's the height. Maybe it's footage sitting on a phone right now. The FBI is asking with $100,000 and the entire weight of federal investigative capacity. They believe the answer exists. After 13 days, Nancy Guthrie deserves to come home.